What is up YouTube, it is your girl Nesianni back at again in the episode and you're watching my channel, so without further ado, let's just hop right into this video. So today we're going to be talking about the Air Force Ones, and when I was on the hunt for my Air Force Ones, I wasn't sure whether or not to get the women's size or the big kid size. So for those who are unaware, you can get the Air Force One shoes in women's size and transfer that to big kid size to save some coin. I think the difference is about $10, and so a size 6 in women's translates to a size 4.5 in big kids and a size 5.5 in Air Force Women's, because the Air Force Women's shoe runs half a size big. So I personally sized down half a size and got the 5.5 for my feet because I'm a natural 6 and Air 6 runs really big. According to the reviews on the site that I ordered it off of Nordstrom's website. I ordered a big kids and a women's, and I had them sent to me because I wanted to compare and see whether or not I wanted to save the extra $10 or splurge the extra $10. Regardless of whichever shoe you decide to pick, 85 or 95, I think there's still quite a lot of money to drop on some shoes in my opinion, and so that's what this video is for. If you're interested in what I'm about to say, my thoughts and my opinions based on what I've seen personally in the shoe, stay tuned. Let's just hop right into this video. Right off the bat, the boxes are slightly different. This is the women's, this is the big kids, and the women's is kind of a little bit more narrow in my opinion. But that's just the first thing that I noticed right when I picked up the packages. So backstory, I ordered these packages at the same time, and this was around the time when I was filming my holiday winter lookbook video. So when I went to go pick them up, I guess they didn't realize that both of my orders were there, and so they only handed me one box. Since I ordered the big kids first in my mind, I'm thinking that that's the shoe that they handed me. So this whole time I'm thinking that I'm holding on to the big kids, and that's the one that I tried on first, and it felt really nice on my feet. I'm like, wow, if this is how the big kids feels, I have high expectations for the women's, because I was thinking that maybe the material in the women and big kids would be slightly different, and so that the women's would be a little bit more of an improvement since it costs more. And then I tried on what I thought was the women's, and I was like, OMG, why does this feel worse on my feet and more loose? After that, I realized that I had by mistake switched them. But in reality, I tried on the women's first and the big kids second. And so I already had a little bit of like bias planted there because of the switch up that I made. So what I noticed right off the bat, trying them on my feet, I noticed that the women's was a lot more form-fitting to my feet, and the size big kids 4.5 was a little bit looser on my feet. The women's also felt a little bit more cushiony, and the big kids felt a little bit more like rough and a little bit more spacious. This is the women's. This is what they look like. So as you can see from first glance, you don't really see much of a difference. It kind of looks like the same thing, kids and the women's. When you put them side by side, you don't really notice a difference, except for in the sole of the feet, in the sole of the shoe. You notice that the big kids has this great portion here, and if you look very closely, this is just something I notice. The women's have slightly bigger holes in them. The holes on the sides and the front of the women's shoes are slightly bigger than the big kids. Placing them side by side, you would never be able to tell that they're much different. The way they feel is where you feel the difference. They look literally the same. My advice to you is this: if you are going to make this your main shoe, if this is something that you're going to be wearing often, if this is something that you want to incorporate into a lot of your outfits, if this is something that you are going to get a lot of wear out of, I would recommend to spend the extra $10 and get the women's. But if this is something that you're using for aesthetic, you just want to get the look of it without paying the extra $10, and you want to save some extra coin, and you are not going to put much wear into it, you're going to wear it occasionally, maybe for a picture or two, then I would say there's no point in spending the extra $10 to get the women's. You should just might as well get the big kids because you're not going to be wearing them that often. However, if you just want to save money in general, then get the big kids. Just wear some nice cushioned socks and I feel like you would be fine. Either way, both shoes are quite expensive in my opinion, for my pocket at least, and so it's gonna be almost $100 either way for me. So in my opinion, I personally decided to go for the women's because it's like that thing when you're trying on wedding dresses, right? And the first dress you try on is the dress, and so everything else in comparison doesn't compare. That's exactly what happened to me. I tried on the women's first without realizing it was the women's and thinking that it was a big kids, and I liked it so much that I had high expectations for what I thought was a women's, but in reality it was a big kids, and it disappointed me a little bit. So I already had an expectation of what I felt like the shoe should feel like, and that's why I decided just to keep the women's and send back the big kids. Now I know that, you know, some people who are thinking about buying this shoe, maybe you might buy more than one pair for the holiday season to gift to someone or anything like that, then there's no point in spending the extra $10 because they literally, like, side by side, they literally look the same. And if you were wearing this and not putting it next to this, you would never really tell the difference between the construction of the shoe, really. Like, it literally looks the same. I just feel like the main difference is the cushioning in the shoe, because I felt the difference when I tried them on. This part right here, this is the big kids, so this part right here, when I put my finger in it, it just feels really rough. But on the women's, when I put my finger there, I feel the cushion. So that's what I'm talking about when I say that I can feel the difference in the shoe. And so I feel like if you want to also wear this for an extended period of time, then I would go for the women's. But the big kids are just as good for other reasons depending on what your needs are. If you prefer a little bit more room in your shoe, then I would suggest you to get the big kids, because the women's size 5.5 is snug, and I know that if I got this 6 in the women's size, it'd be way too loose. But the big kids 4.5 women conversion size fit a little bit more loosely on my shoe. However, I feel like that's due to the whole cushioning thing, and so that's where the sock game comes in play. Like, if you have really thick socks, then I would recommend to get the big kid size. That's just my personal opinion. I'm saying this because when I was looking for the Air Force Ones, I found the size 4 in big kids in one of the retail stores, and when I tried them on, they were barely fitting, so they're very snug. And so the 4.5 fit a lot better, but it was still roomy. It was like two extremes, and I personally like when my shoes hug my feet, which is why I also have a preference to the women's. But if that isn't your preference, then yes. If you made this far, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to not try to fit into a box, but custom make your own. Have a good day or night wherever you are, and peace out. I am out. Also, I really hope that this video helped you make a well-informed decision on which shoe you want, whether that be the women's size or the big kid size. Yeah, I will see you guys next time.